I was raised in Tel Aviv. It's the biggest metropolitan city in Israel. Quite a modern, hectic, busy city. I invite everybody to come and explore it. I was actually born in a moshav. A moshav is like a farm. It was 1972. I reveal my age. I'm 51. And a year after I was born, it was Yom Kippur War in Israel. My father was a combat fighter in Israel's war, and a few days into the war, he got killed. And actually, I was with my mother. We moved to Tel Aviv when I was about 1.5 years old. And that probably shaped up some of my entrepreneurial journey.
Really? You see any relations, any connections between your background and...
Yeah, I think that I was fortunate to be raised in a very caring, loving family. My mother got remarried again when I was 11 or 12. And my adopting father brought 3 siblings with him. And I also have a brother from my adopting father and from my mother. So I was raised up to a certain age as an only child, which on the one hand built strong resilience and independence, which I think are 2 very important characteristics for an entrepreneur. It is a very different probably journey than working for a company. So I think that's kind of a basic of what I was maybe grown into. And also, to a certain degree, I think given that I was a only child with a working mother, I had to take care of myself. So I also always knew I had a back to lean on. But also, I needed to cook for myself and open the door for myself when coming back from home. And I think that that's definitely something that was burned into my non-born DNA that created that maybe
drive
to own my own destiny.
Yeah. When do you consider your career is started? What was the beginning of your career?
Yeah, I think I was always working and always, in a way, lived life as if I need to take care of it. So during college, I had a sandwich business. I actually sold sandwiches to my college students and had to, in a way, finance some of my education. I was always either owning my own business or providing myself through various investments or businesses. So I would say that journey as an entrepreneur started at the very early days, probably as a teenager. And I think that the first kind of real business that I started was in my mid-20s. It was the dot-com, it was an exciting period, and tech became, it was the beginning of tech as we know it today. It was the internet kind of initiation, and since then I'm in this roller coaster.
People are talking about serial entrepreneurs, and it sounds like a fun business to do, just making companies one after another. And I guess it's so difficult to start all over again with a new company, with new challenges, and you must be very enthusiastic about it. Otherwise, why would you do it?
Yeah, so I think that on a personal basis, when you own your own business, there's lots of uncertainty. So I would first define an entrepreneur as someone that can actually operate in an uncertain environment. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know if your vision, your product, your idea actually has a market. You don't know if you can raise money. You don't know if other people will follow you. So I think that first and foremost, uncertainty is something that you need to really feel comfortable about. I think that for me personally, uncertainty is almost a joy. I enjoy coming to work knowing that I have no idea what's going to happen next.
That's what fuels you.
In a way, it definitely does. It's kind of interesting. I think that today, I'm fortunate to be part of a company that is global, that is successful, that is, have real serious enterprise customers. And we're still in a journey. We're still, in a way, uncertain what's going to happen in a week, in a month, in a year. And the fact that I can actually color the road and remove some of those uncertainties, and I know that what I won't do, not going to happen, is a big driver for me. It's a passion.
Interesting. Let's talk about the companies. The first one was after college?
Yeah, so I was always involved in companies that actually the engine or their core technology was driven by data, was driven by understanding behaviors and habits. It was either in internet monetization, it was in media space, then it was in the education market, followed by a micropayments application. So through my entire career, I was part of businesses that data was a significant part of what made them stand out in their industries, in their markets. Some of them were more successful than others, some were sold, some raised money. It was always a very, I would say, involved businesses. But definitely that journey over the last, or the first 15 years in my entrepreneurial world led to the inception of Pyramid, probably as a company that comes to change the way people see the utilization of data very differently.
All right. Could you give me your, 5 minutes pitch, your elevator pitch about the company? What is it all about?
Yeah. So I think Pyramid is a very unique animal in what is called the BI space. The BI space is a well-established market, probably $30-40 billion space. It's out there for 4 decades, maybe a bit more. It has evolved over the years and changed. I think that maybe a decade ago was a moment in time where the BI space became quite established and mature, and it was leaning mostly on data visualization. I wanted to take my business unit and in a way visualize the activities that this business unit was doing. And, we are all seeing dashboards and we all know how it looks like, a very nice gauge, green is good, red is bad, a pie chart that tells me, maybe the breakdown of my business unit and so on. And it was quite established practice in businesses, but it was very much driven deep in, I would say, experts. And the adoption of data across businesses in a much more strategic way. Data was there all the time, it's not a new concept, but the adoption of data, the utilization of data, the understanding that data is now a mission critical asset. It's not just that we're aggregating and accumulating data because one day we'll go through an audit and someone needs to know what happened. It's actually a fundamental part of our business assets. Created the need to utilize, to harvest data. And, it started with the trend of big data, and maybe today it's humongous data. I have no idea, size matters. But it's the massive amounts of data, it's the complexity of data, it's the location of data. So data actually evolved quite significantly in the last decade. People were...
And the ability to aggregate data has evolved immensely.
Absolutely. It's the data assets themselves. It's the ability to store the data. It's the ability to restore the data. It's the ability to eventually leverage and utilize the data. So first and foremost, in the last decade, massive changes in the importance of data within businesses. And as data became such a critical asset, organizations realized that they also need to, it's not enough that we found oil, we actually want to use it. We want to fuel our cars, we want to use it to launch rockets to space. And the same with data. We actually want to do more and more. And Pyramid is sitting on the course of being able to operationalize use cases, business use cases, from the lenses of data. So instead of thinking just about data visualization and pie charts, we also have pie charts, but they are as round as anybody else. There's no real value proposition behind it. What we've done, probably much better than anybody else, is giving you the best harvesting machine that can yield the most sophisticated yet profound output for your company. So if you're sitting on a use case in manufacturing, in finance, in retail, education, we talked about insurance, all of those use cases that eventually would give you probably two major things in the business spectrum. One is return on investment. I want to know that so I have data, but if it doesn't advance my business and I don't become more efficient, more competitive, then why use it? So I need to prove that I can deliver an ROI, a return on investment. And the second part is what we call TCO, total cost of ownership. So most organizations will measure the importance of analytics with those two matrices, an ROI and a TCO that can deliver an outcome. And I think Pyramid is probably an outstanding offering, technological offering, but also a mission-critical application that can deliver on those two matrices.
We'll get to it a bit later, but probably I should have asked it a little earlier, but I'm really interested to understand what is it about data that thrill you so much? Some people would say data is data is data. It's boring. I don't know.
We're sitting here today, and probably the most exciting, scaring, thrilling concept is AI. Everybody's talking about AI, right? We're all either concerned or excited or happy or actually have ideas on how to change the world with AI. AI wouldn't exist without data. So when you think about data, it's almost the DNA that builds everything. We're data. We're data assets. We're built out of DNA. There is probably a grid somewhere that defines how we are as humans built. So data is the probably core asset that allows organization to really build their businesses in a much faster, smarter, efficient way, to be way more agile, to be more precise, to innovate faster, better, smarter. All of that can be done with data. If I can understand the ins and outs of my business from a data perspective, then my ability to build phenomenal businesses is second to none. That's what would make a huge difference in our world. So I think it's the building blocks of everything. what's so exciting in today's world is that we actually have access to it, right? We always kind of counted on experience, on gut feeling. I was brought up in an era where people said, listen, first and foremost, you need to be experienced. Why? Because experience builds intuition, it builds perspective, it builds context. And I think data almost, I don't want to say you don't need to be experienced anymore, but if I have two managers that would exclusively drive their business from the lenses of data, the one that will be more disciplined with utilization of data will be more successful, regardless of experience. It could have 2 days in the job versus someone who has 25 years in the job.
So intuition has nothing to do with it?
So I think that, I think intuition will be our compass. It will tell us you're on the right direction. It's almost a North Star. I think intuition is creativity, which is something that people talk about mid-journey, and fair enough, but that's not really the core creative, I would say, characteristics of humans. So I think that experience is going to be the driver, but it's no more exclusive. Intuition is important that I'll know that, okay, it feels to me that I'm on the right direction, and actually my AI bot told me to go to the left, and I actually feel comfortable. Yes, left felt to me the right direction, so I'll use it. I won't resist it. I think people that will come with less experience will be less resistant to listen to the directions that will be kind of guided from those tools. So back to the question on why data is so exciting, is because data is almost a map to everything we want to do. We can actually finally look at a business that is, it's not tangible, right? A business is not something that I can feel, that I can touch it, that I can move it, that I can change it. Business is in a way, it's a metaphoric concept. Data all of a sudden builds a map of my business, of my use cases, of even my team. Will almost put a shape on. So I know it's highly philosophical, but if we're thinking about where this world is heading to, I think data is what we need to pay attention to. The more we see data, the more we have data, the more we use data, the more maybe interesting, exciting approach we can have to using data.
Is that true to new agile companies, or would you say that old-fashioned companies, old school companies also need to know how to control data?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that, first of all, we like to refer to it as data-driven culture. Can you adopt a culture that lean on data? And we have plenty of customers that you would probably characterize them as old-fashioned, as kind of been there, done that for the last few decades. And what can we teach them? They know everything. They've seen everything, every crisis in the market, and every downturn, and every upside. They've seen it all. And I think that when they see the newcomers, the more innovative organizations that almost sometimes overnight becomes significant drivers in any industry, they realize that becoming a data-driven organization is critical for their survival. So I would say that I actually think that most companies definitely in sizable industries are slowly but surely becoming data-driven cultures or driven by data as a culture. And there are lots of ways to kind of use that methodology, but people refer to top-down and bottoms-up. The organizations that will adopt it the best will be the ones that it will come from the top. That your manager will tell you, we're not having this meeting if you're not coming to me with data, with details, with numbers, with appreciation of where we are now, where we want to go, can we measure ourselves through that journey? And I think those will be the more successful companies to adopt those methodologies. And I think eventually everybody will have to be data-driven.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about the company itself and how it handles in the, let's say, a competitive market. You entered what some people would say a red ocean full of current companies, actually big companies, huge companies. How can you succeed in such an environment?
Yeah, it's a great question, which, first of all, I think every startup is being asked. Really? You're going to compete with Bank of America? Why the hell do you need another fintech company? And I think that it starts with an innovative idea, with an understanding of a problem that a customer has that potentially we know how to solve, maybe better than others. And what we've seen in the market is a challenge with the type of customers that we're serving is that eventually analytics projects fail. They really don't work. And it's a very, very, very high level statement, works versus doesn't work. But that's where we started. We're practitioners. We came from the data market. Through my journey and my co-founder's journey, we've been involved in many analytics companies, and historically we saw that most of those projects will fail. Now it doesn't mean that they won't happen, but maybe they will cost 10x. Maybe the time to insight or the time to market for those projects will take, I don't know, much more time to fruition. And that's a problem. It's a problem because organizations eventually are spending a fortune on those mission-critical applications, and they fail to deliver internally, externally, to their employees, to their customers, to their partners. And that's a massive problem. And when we realized that, we started to think of, why is it failing? Like, it's an industry, we talked about it, it's an industry that exists for 4 decades. So what happened? It's not that you don't have good companies or big companies or smart people, you do. And I think that Pyramid had the fortune to start the development of our solution in a proper timing. People say timing is everything. Mm-hmm. Maybe in this case as well. So when we started to think about building our offering to the market, it was maybe 6-7 years ago, and it was the beginning of the huge changes in the requirements around data assets.
So it was not on the time you started the company, it was a few years later.
Correct. So
was that a pivot, or?
It was a pivot, and Pyramid had a journey, and we started somewhere with a Microsoft offering, and then we started an M&A process with Microsoft. Given that we've had successful exits in the past, we didn't want to just do a quick turnaround. We wanted to build a category leader. We knew that the vision we've got for this market is much bigger than the opportunity provided to us back then, and we said thank you very much, but we're going to double down on our vision for this market. So when we started this new journey, this additional journey for Pyramid, it was a moment in the data time that organizations started to adopt conceptually data very differently, and we realized that we need to combine various methodologies, different disciplines in the data space to technologically connect to data differently. And I know we'll have opportunities to talk about the technology. I don't want to dive deep into it, but I think philosophically the way we're thinking about data analytics is very different to the big established, companies like Microsoft and SAP and Salesforce that owns Tableau and Click that is almost a public company. Look, there are lots of vendors out there, and they're very successful and they're very big, but they're also, I think, leaning on historical vision of how to utilize data and how to provide analytics on top of that. And I think what Pyramid does from a vision perspective is very, very unique in this space.
Was that a eureka moment? You actually understood that you are on the verge of starting something new in this area?
So I think, it's interesting. I've never really had a eureka moment.
Really?
Yeah. And when you talk to entrepreneurs, I think that they have a moment where they think about something that they can solve for a business problem. I'm not so sure that there is one unique moment. At least my experience, most companies start somewhere, and they evolve. They continue to innovate. They continue to change. It's kind of a journey, and you're exploring, and you meet more customers, and all of a sudden you realize that you started in point A, and you actually need to go to point 5, which is a different scale completely. So I think that for us, the good news was that it wasn't a eureka moment, that it was a journey. It was based on experience. It was a deep experience with customers, with partners, with toying with technology. We weren't just waking up in the morning, the light bulb went up, said, okay, here is how you fix the data analytics problems in this industry. It was almost the opposite. We had to go through a extensive journey that took, the first 6 years to actually understand exactly the nuances of how to solve the data analytics problems in this market. And to your original question, which I tend to talk a lot, so I apologize for that, but to your original question, can we actually compete with mega companies? Absolutely yes, because we haven't woken up one day and said, okay, there is a small broken problem. It's a conceptual misalignment in today's technologies with the way companies need to adopt analytics tools. And that's the big difference with Pyramid.
Interesting. Maybe a question about the company's relationship with investors. The companies change, the times have changed, maybe investors have changed also.
Well, investors are the necessary evil. They know what I think about them, so I don't have a problem to say that. But they're a critical part of our journey. And, when we started Pyramid, we started as a bootstrap. We invested our own money, a few millions. We actually incorporated in the Netherlands because we were looking for a unique tax structure. We thought we will never raise money from anyone. We'll be cash flow positive overnight, and we'll never pay taxes. And obviously, that wasn't realistic, and that wasn't the way to go. And for companies, definitely companies like us that wants to scale and grow and compete with those what we call mega vendors, you need to have a financial backing. I think that we are fortunate to be backed by some of the best partners in the world. Globally, Sequoia, HIG, two massive funds that were backing some of the most successful companies in the world. And in Israel, Viola and JVP, we have phenomenal relationship with them. They're a big part of our success story. They are really partners of us. The interesting part about JVP specifically is that they were investors in a company called Click, which is a high flyer in our industry, went public almost a decade ago, and they did a home run with them. And I think that JVP, given their success in our space, were waiting to find the next company that will be another success story in the analytics market. And we're very, grateful for their support, but also it's almost a kosher stamp that someone that already, succeeded in this industry and understand and appreciate what Pyramid brings to the market and joined our journey. We're in an interesting financial time, right?
Interesting is the right word for that.
Definitely interesting. Maybe if you look a year back or a year and a half back, people were writing checks without even doing a basic due diligence and giving maybe even non-realistic valuations. I think that those times have gone. But to be honest, I've been in the .com, I've been through the subprime, I've been through COVID and post-COVID. I think those are, it is a roller coaster, and times sometimes are better, sometimes are, more challenging. We're definitely in the more challenging times from a financial perspective.
But do you enjoy cooperation from the investors during these hard times?
Yeah, so I think first of all, our investors are very much behind the company and supporting us, and we're lucky to have quite a significant runway. So, we don't see any unique financial stress, and we're growing, and, we're eventually, the best investment is paying customers, which we're lucky to have. So I think that's less a concern. But, eventually every company, in order to scale and grow, needs a bigger financial event, whether it's an IPO or a merge with a bigger company that will represent a bigger market. And I think that's something that will probably be delayed, and we will continue to grow as an independent vendor. Our passion is to grow this company as an independent BI player in this space. We already turned down acquisitions in the past, so it's not something that we're going to hunt for. I think we have a very big commitment to our customers, and for that reason, I think that we will continue to build relationship with VCs, with investors, with PE firms in the space that can help us continue growing.
All right. I would like to ask you something in a different aspect of your activity. I wonder what drives you today. You are really have a lot of experience, many years in the business. What do you think about when you wake up in the morning? What's on your mind? What is the motivation to go further?
First of all, I think every entrepreneur is a competitive person, and I want Pyramid to be the best. I want Pyramid to be number one. I want Pyramid to be in the mouth of every person that needs to use analytics. Will think about Pyramid first. So I think for me, my passion is to take this company to be a category leader. And I've built businesses, I sold businesses, I closed businesses, and I've never so far built a category leader. I think Pyramid has everything it needs to be a category leader. It has the DNA, it has the vision, it has the product, it has the leadership team, it has the experience, it has the investors that we need to do that.
So how far are you from being that?
So we're actually category leaders in various areas. Mm-hmm. We touched a little bit on AI. So by Gartner, if there are various ways to consider yourself as category leader, right? So if I think about Gartner, at least maybe as the people who provide the Bible for technology, for tech technologies.
Gartner is the company that defines the areas and put the companies on the magic square.
Correct. So Gartner is almost the Bible for the buyer, right? If I'm an IT guy in Bank of America and I'm going to purchase a new technology, I'm going to first go to Gartner and ask them who are the vendors that I should consider. So in AI, Pyramid is ranked number one by Gartner. We're a relatively small company in the outskirts of Tel Aviv, and we're still winning based on that mega accounts in the millions. U.S. federal contracts, banks, insurance, retailers worldwide. And big part of that is because we're category leaders in what the market is calling augmented analytics, but basically that's AI for data analytics. So we are a category leader in that perspective. I think when you think about this market and kind of break out the various vendors, there isn't another vendor like Pyramid. Culturally, there isn't another vendor like Pyramid. I think we're serving the biggest companies in the world, but we're still culturally almost feeling like a family. We care about them as probably larger vendors will pay less attention, and also the fact that no other vendor yet has came out with the way Pyramid is built from a technology perspective still position us as category leaders. We still need to grow and in revenues and in customer base to be considered from a market cap perspective. Yep. To be category leaders, and that's the journey that we need to take. But I think we established the fact that what we've built is highly differentiated. It solves a massive problem, and you cannot buy it anywhere else. It's quite unique.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about people, your people. They say people are always a challenge. Hiring employees, retention of employees, sometimes letting go of employees. What can you tell us about the people in your company?
Well, I'll start by saying that it's all about people. Technology is great, but even technology is built by people. I think that what's unique about Pyramid as a company, is that I hope that we continue to feel like a family. It's a global organization. We have offices in Israel, in the UK, in London, in East Coast, West Coast, in Berlin, in Dubai.
How many employees?
We're about
total?
200 plus.
Right. And you're still growing?
We are still growing.
Yep.
Despite the financial
that's
distress,
unique.
We are growing, and we will continue to grow. But I think what's important to us as founders, as leadership team, even I hear it from the board that it's very unique, is that Pyramid still feels like a family. At some point when you grow, it's very uncommon for organizations to support internally different functions, support the same goal. Everybody has their own agenda and their own objectives, and I'm going after my goals, and leave me alone, and you're holding me back, and you're pushing me for no reason. And I think that at Pyramid there's still a very strong feeling that it's a collective effort, and it's not just every individual for themselves. It's not just every function that needs to create their own output and be done with it. So I think that's first something that we continue to build internally from a culture perspective, that everybody rolls their sleeves. Everybody is part of the mission. Everybody is supporting the end game. We have people that are with us from day one, and this is already a decade plus journey. And the fact that people stayed and continue to believe and continue to work so hard. You asked me earlier, why do I wake up every morning and doing the, kind of joining this crazy world of entrepreneurial? Some of it is people. They push you, they challenge you, they make you who you are, and to a certain degree, they make you better.
How do you keep the commitment of the employees? How do you keep them the loyalty? Because in a competitive market, people are moving from one company to its competitor.
First of all, it's a good question, and I think we provide a platform for innovation. I think people have a say. Everybody has something to contribute around the table. You're not just, part of the machine. We want to know what you think. We understand that it's critical for our success to pay attention and to listen to everybody. So first of all, I think that the feeling that everybody can contribute is something that is very unique. I think that the fact that we are innovating at the extreme, the business we're in is, it's AI and machine learning and data and analytics. It's the cutting edge of what drives the world today. So I think that part of that is the space we're in, the industry we're in, and how we innovate around those assets. And then, I think that people have a shared vision. They see how we influence our customers. They hear the feedback from customers of how important what we do for them is. And I think that makes people super excited and happy.
All right. Maybe last question for this talk is where do you see the company, let's say, 5 years from now, in all aspects of its development?
So I think what Pyramid is trying to do is provide a wholesome experience, a standard offering to leverage data. And that concept hasn't yet been adopted across the board by everybody, right? That's maybe why we're still quite unique about that. But if I'm thinking, 3, 4, maybe 5 years forward, first and foremost, I think that conceptually, we will see organizations intuitively saying, listen, I need a standard way to run my business from the lenses of analytics, which is something doesn't really happen yet on a mass basis today. So that's one thing, that our vision will become almost the standard in the industry. I want Pyramid to be an independent vendor, maybe public, maybe not. I think this is more a financial story rather than a goal. But most importantly, that our vision will be part of what every organization is waking up in the morning and say, okay, that's what we need to embrace. If we want to maintain competitiveness, if we want to be a leading entity in our space, in our industry, we must take into account that understanding that data is the way to go.
Do you see any M&As on the road ahead?
First of all, I don't think we're interested in selling Pyramid, but growing through M&As is something that we definitely look at. We're looking at companies that are maybe a little bit smaller than us, that can either add value to our roadmap or can add value to our vision, or operate in the space we're in. And we feel that if they became part of Pyramid, we can collectively do a better job for our mutual customers. So I think I'm going to flip it and say that we're looking to acquire companies. We're not actively by any means interested in selling Pyramid.
All right. The guessing game, the popular guessing game in the last, 2 years is when this bad period will end. What do you see? Where do you see yourself getting out of from it, and the market will flourish again?
I think first of all, from a macroeconomic perspective, I think we've seen the strongest dip, the largest dip. I think from here.
Yes.
There's going to be a correction. We see corrections in the markets. Various geographies are faster than others. For us, the U.S. is our biggest market, and I think it's already almost out of danger zone, and it's going to start climbing back. I think that probably 2024 is still going to be kind of a year where we all take more cautious, and it's going to still be, money is going to be expensive, interest rates, hopefully inflation is going to go down a bit. So I think 2024 is still going to be an interesting year, but it's not going to be any more unknown, which is probably the most problematic aspect of financial markets. When uncertainties and unknown are a big part of it, then you'll see a red flag across the entire space. I think we're no longer there. I think that the macroeconomy activities and actions that has been put in place removed some of the uncertainties, maybe even more than some, in a way, in a big way. And now it's about recovery. So I think 2024 will be a recovery year, and probably 2025 is when we'll start to see climbing up again.
All right, so you leave us with an optimistic feeling about the future.
I'm an entrepreneur. I have to be an optimistic person, otherwise I would shit myself.
Well, now we are all optimistic. Thank you very much, Omri, for this interesting conversation, and I hope to talk with you again quite soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Bye.